Hey everyone, I hope you all are having a great day. Welcome to my talk about generating diffs using AsyncAPI Diff. We will discuss about what diffs are, why do we need them, and looking into the AsyncAPI Diff library. First of all, a little bit about me. My name is Aayush Sahu. I'm a developer, student, and I love contributing to open source. You can find me at these links below. So let's have a little background. This project, the AsyncAPI Diff library, was an idea for Google Summer of Code, also known as GSoC, and I was selected to work on this project, which by the way was a lot of fun. Before we get into the diffing library, let's talk about AsyncAPI. So what is AsyncAPI? AsyncAPI is a specification to define your event-based architectures. The main idea is you have a file in which you define your event-driven APIs using the AsyncAPI specification. On the right, we have a demo application which shows the info about our API as well as the server with which our application will connect to and the channels through which it will send or receive messages. So, what is diff? Diff is a way of comparing files in order to generate the difference between them. The most common diff tools is git diff. You can see an example on the right which shows git diff in action. What's so important about generating diffs? As it turns out, the business requirements are always changing. New features have to be added, some have to be removed, and keeping track of those changes is a tedious task. That's where diff comes in. It generates the difference between two files, so in order to see what changes have been made, you can just find diff between them. For example, let's say we have an application initially having 5 servers and 5 types of responses or channels. As our application grows, the number of servers and the number of responses or channels will increase by a lot, and keeping track of those changes is a tedious task. That's where you can find the difference between them using diff and see what changes have been made. So what is AsyncAPI Diff? AsyncAPI Diff is a library that generates a diff between two AsyncAPI files, but not only that, it classifies a change that has been made between the given files as breaking, non-breaking, and unclassified. You can try out this library right now using npm install AsyncAPI Diff, and the code is open source, so feel free to check that out. So why do we need AsyncAPI Diff? Well, as I said, generating diffs will help you a lot as your application grows. But with each change, the user can generate to see what has been changed. But not only that, he will get help from this library to see what changes will break your application, what changes are safe and won't break your application. This is what I meant by classifying a change as breaking, non-breaking, or unclassified. So let's take a look at the features of this library. It has a built-in standard and the ability to override those standards. Now you might be wondering what is this standard I'm talking about. Hold that thought right there because we will talk about that in a bit. Another feature is that it is extensible. Extensible in the sense that the output helper methods provided by this library can be easily extended and more features can be added. Let's talk about the standard. This is the main brain behind our library, which helps in classifying the changes that we made to our application. One of the main features of this library is to show what changes are breaking, non-breaking, and unclassified. We achieve this by keeping a standard that classifies a change in AsyncAPI field as breaking, non-breaking, or unclassified. Let's take a look at the standard more in depth. Here we have a small standard that is built in our AsyncAPI Diff library. As you can see, we have a key named AsyncAPI. These are the fields which are defined in our AsyncAPI specification itself. For example, in the AsyncAPI specification, we have field name AsyncAPI info servers, and it corresponds to our standard having AsyncAPI field, ID field, info field, and servers field as well. And since in a diff only 3 types of changes can be made, we either add something, remove something or edit something. So we have mapped those as well. For example, if we add the async API field itself, it is a non-breaking change, but if we remove it, it is a breaking change. Similarly, if we add a servers field, then adding a server field is a non-breaking change, but removing them or editing them is a breaking change. But our built-in standard won't be able to satisfy all the needs for your classification. That's why we provide the ability to add new standards or override the existing ones. We'll see more about this in the demo. The output helpers, generating the output. So if we generated the diff, now we need to show it to the user. This is where the output helpers come in. We can show what are the breaking change, what are the non-breaking change, what are the unclassified changes, and we can also get the whole output itself. Now let's have a small demo of our application. I have a small async API file of our application. It is a street slide API, and right now we have only one server named Mosquito having the URL and protocol. Well, I have changed something. I have added a new server named socket, and I have changed the existing server from using protocol MQTT to HTTP. Now let's generate a diff between those. Now I run the application and let's see the output. Well, there you go. You have a array of changes and you can see what has been changed. The protocol has been changed from MQTT to HTTP, which is a breaking change. The URL has been changed, which is again a breaking change, but adding a new server is considered a non-breaking change. Therefore, we are getting non-breaking change. Well, if you want to override those default standards, you can do that as well. Providing the overrides, we can, let's say if we want to make addition of a server a breaking change, we can do that as well. So getting the output again, and there you go, your addition of a server is now a breaking change. Well, this is getting the whole output. Well, we can get only the breaking changes as well. And running the script again, there you go, all the changes are now breaking. If you only want to get the non-breaking changes as well, let me running the script again, and there you have it, only a single non-breaking changes. That's all for the demo. Now let's look at the integrations. So where would you find this library? You can find the library in AsyncAPI Studio, which is a website related to all about AsyncAPI. And in the CLI, AsyncAPI has the CLI to work with AsyncAPI files. And perhaps I'm just thinking about it, but it might be a good addition in GitHub Action. All these three are in progress and we hope to ship it out pretty soon. So that's all about my talk. Please enjoy the rest of your conference and don't forget to join the AsyncAPI force. All the invite links are down below.